Hafaday, welcome to another interview. This time we're speaking with another candidate for Guam delegate on the Democratic ticket, and she's current senator, Senator Amanda Shelton. Hafaday.
Hafaday, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. It's been an exciting campaign so far. You know, I've done it before on the senatorial trail, but this is a little different. This is one seat, not one of 15.
Yeah.
And, you know, the pressure is on. I can feel it. And I'm just having a great time meeting the people, getting out as much as I can to talk to as many people as I can and hear from them what their concerns are on the issues.
Well, you definitely have the attention of the people as they have already elected you multiple times into office at the legislature. But walk me back down memory lane. Talk to us a little bit about what you did before getting into public office and then the decision to run for Congress.
Yes, so I've been a senator now for 3 terms. And before that, I worked as a congressional staffer for Congresswoman Madeline Bordallo and as a legislative staffer for Senator Dennis Rodriguez as his chief of staff and a legislative policy analyst for several years. So my background has been policy making, has been public service, and I felt that calling for a long time. So stepping into the senatorial position felt like a very natural calling to me. I'm sure you can remember I was one of the youngest ever elected to that position, and I didn't think at that time that I'd ever be in that position. I always thought like, oh, maybe in a few years, maybe when I'm retired from whatever my job is, how you see people typically go into public office. And that calling came at that moment, and I couldn't ignore it because I knew that I needed to serve the people of Guam. And the same thing happened in this moment now. I had lots of people ask, like, why Congress? Why now? You're doing a great job as senator. You know, you're going from for sure thing, 1 of 15 to just 1, you're risking a lot. But I see that that risk is absolutely worth it because we are at a critical moment in Guam's history. And I think that Guam needs respectful, effective, collaborative leadership to move our agenda forward in Washington. And Guam has been my lifelong home. It's really the heartbeat of my identity. And it's my shared experience with you, with all of the people of Guam, the listeners tonight, that have shaped my values, that have fueled my commitment to public service. And so that has been my background, serving now in the legislature for the last 3 terms. And it's really been such an honor and such a privilege to give myself this way to the people of Guam. And of course, it gives me so much fulfillment as well to know that this is my home. This is the place that I want to build up for future generations, for my hopefully future family and all my godchildren that are going to live here and stay rooted here.
Yeah. And you touched on being one of the youngest when you got into the legislature. I think you were also, correct me if I'm wrong, among the group of the legislatures, the group of all the largest women group that was elected into the legislature at one time. So.
Yes. So I was the
incredible.
youngest at that time elected, but I am also the youngest woman ever to be elected in the legislature. I hope another young lady will come and knock me out of that position sometime soon. But yes, we were the ladies-lature, the super majority of women, the first in the states. And that was really an honor to be a part under the leadership of Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes, Vice Speaker Talina Nelson, myself as the secretary. To be a part of that cohort was really exciting and a great way for me to step into that public service.
And you definitely said it correctly when you said the pressure is on, because look at the questions and the reactions that you got instantly when you officially started announcing, I'm running for Congress. How do you see yourself getting past that, past the pressure, and just focus on the issues and the campaign?
Yes, well, many people asked, even my family asked, why Congress? Why now? Do you think this is the right time? And I told them the same thing, that I think this is the right time. This is the moment for me. I know that this is a very, very important moment for Guam, and Guam deserves a delegate who will work tirelessly to fight for the people of Guam, to fight for parity for the people of Guam in Washington, D.C. And so people are asking me, why would you want to leave Guam? And it's not that I want to leave Guam. It just so happens that this job is in Washington, D.C. Guam is my home. It is the heartbeat of who I am, my identity. Everything about me is Guam. I am Guam's girl. You know, that's who I am. And I can serve Guam the best, in my best ability, I believe, in this position. So the job just happens to be in Washington, D.C. And I think that if you look at my background, if you look at the work I've done in the legislature over the last 3 terms, prioritizing services for our veterans, helping people who are most in need at the times most in need, whether that was during the pandemic or right after Typhoon Mawar, really building up our local workforce capacity for families inside and outside of the base. That has been my background, to help people in any way I can. And that's what I'll continue to do if I'm so blessed to be able to go into this position as Guam delegate, continue to fight for parity for the people of Guam.
I think that's, as the saying goes, you could take the island girl out of the island, but you can never take what's the true
for
the
sure
truth behind being an island girl.
Yes,
out of
and
you.
I have been so blessed to be able to follow in my parents and my grandparents' generations of service to our island and our people, and to have these examples within my family and surrounding me of people who have cared for others, who have shown me that all of these values that they've taught me in service, in Nafamalik, respect, all of these things that I hold so dear to me, that can all be shared with the wider community. And whether that's in public service as a senator, as a congressperson, or if that's in my volunteer work or civic organizations, there is a place for all of that and for us to share that with one another. And so I feel so blessed to have that kind of backing with me, a family that cares and loves and has taught me patience and understanding, so that I can have that kind of empathy when I talk to the people of Guam, and to know that I'm living these challenges along with you. That's what I think makes me able to do this job, that I feel the pain as a young millennial, thinking about housing affordability, thinking about employment, about healthcare, about social services, about the infrastructure of our island, especially coming out of those 6 months without stable power and water after Mawar. You and I are experiencing these things together as people who are living and working and trying to help our island in this way. And so, all of those experiences, all of that has brought me to this moment to say, yes, I'm ready to stand up and work for Guam in Congress. I will be the voice of every single person on this island, because we can't forget that Guam is not just Guam, the landmass that we need to harden the infrastructure of, we need to solidify, but Guam is more than that. Guam is more than a military base. Guam is more than just the land. It's the 170,000 people who live here, every heart that lives here. And that's really my pledge to the people of Guam going into this campaign, that I am going to be the voice for every single person who chooses to make Guam home.
Well, that's a good setup to discuss more on your platform, which we'll get to after the break.
Okay.
Keep it here. You're watching The Interview. Welcome back to The Interview. Again, joining us in studio is the candidate for Guam delegate under the Democratic ticket, Senator Amanda Shelton. Hafaday.
Hafaday, Nick.
So thank you for walking us back down memory lane to talk about your years in public service and the years preceding that. But now I want to ask you, what is your platform for Congress?
I think what is front and center in everyone's mind is our relationship, our role as a national, our island's own defense and national defense strategic place in the world, and the imbalance of power but in our relationship between the United States and the island of Guam. And also being a target for these other nations who look to project power in the Pacific region, or who simply want to do harm to the nation. That's very clear to all of us right now. Every time we hear a threat, every time we read something in the news, and these are things that are really front and center in all of our minds. And so, of course, my platform is centered on the military buildup and things surrounding that, as well as infrastructure of our island, transportation, sustainability, education, healthcare for the people of Guam. And with all this heavy lifting of geopolitical and national security dealing with our island, I think that we also need to focus on the people part of everything that we're doing here, remembering that it is about the people of Guam, the 170,000 hearts that beat here, and that are really driving me and this campaign. So the focus is there on all of those larger platform issues, big issues in Washington, D.C. But I think it's also really focused on the people of Guam and how to help them. So, you know, Nick, in Washington, you can find a study, data, a survey on just about anything. And how members of Congress spend their time is one of these things that there's so much information about. And so it tells us that a member of Congress usually spends 30% or more of their time on constituent services. So this can be anything that a constituent comes to you about with an issue regarding the federal government. So that can mean veteran services, military benefits, immigration paperwork, all of these different things, opportunities for the youth. And I think a really important role that the delegate and their team plays is making the connection between these federal agencies, federal partners, and helping the people of Guam get the things that they deserve through these benefits, or figure out a system that we don't have so much knowledge about, but the representative, the delegate, does have the opportunity to connect us to those things. And I think that's the part of service that we can't forget in public service. Just like we can't forget the people of Guam in Washington, D.C., when we talk about what it means, all of these big major decisions mean for Guam, and putting Guam at the table, making sure that there's parity for the people of Guam among our fellow citizens in the state, our sister territories who have some of these other benefits, putting Guam at the table, not forgetting Guam, the same way that we will have that personal touch with the people of Guam, and being a connection to the federal government for them.
No doubt. And as your current position as Guam Senator, you pretty much already have a seat at the table, so to speak, when it comes to working with military officials, or taking tours even of the new bases, or just corresponding with them about what plans they have in place for bringing more of the Marines and their families here to Guam. How do you think that you might be able to excel that should you become the next delegate?
I think that the role of the delegate, you definitely have a different perspective. You know, having sat working in the office of the delegate for a few years, I saw that there were many more doors opened to different officials. Of course, you have the opportunity to invite them to Guam, to open the conversation to the public. And I think that's something that is so important. Having that open door communication between the government, between government officials, military officials, and our local leaders here, and the people of Guam here who are being affected by all of this. And so having that open line of communication, for me, is a huge priority, because I want to make sure that the people of Guam understand what's happening, and they're brought along the way, every step of the way in the process. Because there are so many things that are going on that, sometimes we're late to hear about things. We hear about it once a decision is made, weeks later, months later, but if we have the opportunity to be an advocate, and Guam deserves that kind of advocate in Washington, to be on top of things, to be there saying this is what Guam deserves, this is what's due to Guam, and bringing that connection back home to the people for them to be a part of it as well.
And on a timely matter, we're not just called Where America's Day Begins, only to hear things, like you said, days or weeks later. So good point there. And I'm glad you brought up your time in the congressional office working for former Congressman Madeline Bordallo, which I want to ask you a little bit more about, but we're going to take one more break.
Okay.
More of the interview in a moment. Welcome back to the interview. Again, you're watching us speaking with the next delegate, I should say, the next Guam delegate candidate, not manifesting it here. But it's up to the people to decide that, of course. Thank you so much, Senator Amanda Shelton, for joining us.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, I'm manifesting it.
And so you had mentioned your time at working for former Congresswoman Madeline Bordallo. Have you spoken to her about this?
Yes, I did let her know very early on my intentions to run. Of course, she was excited for me. She's seen my progression, in public service, and she was very supportive of me when I ran for senator, and she continues to be supportive now. And she's one of those bosses, and something great that I learned from her is to always allow your people to grow and to pursue new things where they can continue to help. And so that's something she encouraged me to do as a senatorial candidate when I was working for her. And I really felt that excitement and support from her when I spoke to her.
What a great balance from hearing from the other side when people question your decision to even run for public office, let alone move from being in the Senate to Congress. So good that you have that there. What are some of the goals should you excel and fill the role in DC? What are some of your immediate goals? I would say first order of business even.
A first order of business if I were to win. Wow, that's so exciting to think about.
Right.
The first thing I would do absolutely is to thank God and to thank the people of Guam for putting their trust and their confidence in me, the platform that I'm presenting, the agenda that I want to carry out as their delegate to Congress. I think that's most important, to show my gratitude. And of course, I would contact our delegate, Jim Moylan, because we are friends. We served in the 35th and 36th Guam legislatures. We've worked very well together.
Keeping those connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would talk to him so that we can ensure a smooth transition between our offices to make sure that there's no interruption in service to the people of Guam. I think that's super important. And then I will, really compile all of the information, all of the concerns, and the suggestions that I heard along the way on the campaign trail, because there have been so many people that I've met, from our island leaders, military leaders, business people, Manumku, our Manhoban, everyone who has something to share, and their voices are so important. And as I am pledging to be a voice for all of these people on Guam, I want to put all of those concerns and suggestions together to help drive, a very short term in Congress. It's only 2 years, just like a senatorial seat here. There's so much work to do, but I'll take all of those suggestions into consideration. And lastly, I'll reach out to my networks nationally and internationally. I've had such a splendid time over the last 6 years as a senator, making these professional and personal connections with different groups, such as the Blue Planet Alliance, the Council of State Governments, the National Council of State Legislatures, the Toll Fellows. All of these folks who have great connections throughout the states, throughout the world. Let them know of my new position advocating for Guam, and ask them to come along and to be just as big supporters of Guam, and ask them for their suggestions of hopefully people who can support Team Guam and be part of that effort to have the best representation from Guam Delegate's office.
Nice. Well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when you
Yes.
potentially get there.
Yes.
What challenges do you foresee in running this campaign in Congress and still balancing what you need to do for the people in your current capacity?
Well, one great thing about being in an elected position right now, serving as a senator and running for Congress, is that I really do have the pulse of the people. I have my ear to the ground. I'm meeting people left and right at every event, in the legislature, in public hearings, listening to these concerns. So to me, every federal issue is a local issue, and there's an opportunity to advocate for Guam at every level of government. And so having that pulse of the people is really important, and I think such an advantage to me that I'm very grateful for. There is, of course, the juggling of the schedule and being super, super busy, but that's not something that I ever complain about, because I feel like when you have the opportunity to reach out and to meet people and to talk to them and to listen to them, that is when you are learning the most. That is when you're able to do the best job, because you work for the people. You're there to listen to their concerns, and their ideas should be what is driving you. That is what has driven most of the legislation that I've put forward in the legislature. It's responding to people's needs and concerns, listening to them. That's why we have this public hearing process, this committee process, so that people come along with us the entire time, that we listen to the people of Guam. That's why we're the people's house. And so having that opportunity to listen, to learn, makes all of the scheduling and the late nights and early mornings worth it.
Yeah, I'll give you an opportunity after the break to speak to your voters as well, to the voters out there. Don't forget to register.
Yes, don't forget to register.
We need more people to get in there and be a part of that political process, no doubt. But is there anything else that you want to make sure that the voters do get to know about your plans for Congress?
Well, I want them to know that I will be a tireless advocate for the people of Guam. Like I said, this has been my life's work to serve in this capacity as a senator, before that as a legislative staffer, as a congressional staffer, as a volunteer in so many organizations. I've always felt that has been my calling. And in this new role that I'm stepping into, hopefully stepping into, that I'm prepared for, I hope that they will continue to give me that trust and confidence, as they've done over the last 3 elections, to give me the honor to serve them in this capacity.
Yeah, because I'm sure the campaign trail has already been pretty challenging
Yes,
in
yes.
its own right.
Yeah, you've seen it.
I'm seeing it, I'm witnessing it, so hang in there.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
All right, we're going to take another break and then we'll wrap up the show. More of the interview after this. Welcome back to the interview. Again, we are joined by candidate for Guam delegate under the Democratic ticket, Senator Amanda Shelton.
Yes, half a day, Nick.
August 3rd is pretty much tomorrow.
Just a couple months away.
Yeah, but we're ready. I know I spoke with some of the other candidates on the ticket as well, and they're just as excited as you are here. But earlier in the show, you did mention your platform, and at the top of that list was the military buildup. In your current capacity and then moving forward, should you get the seat in DC, what are some of the immediate and tangible things that you can attain for Guam with regard to the military buildup and making sure that the people's voices are truly heard?
Well, for me, the overarching theme of my platform is really parity for the people of Guam. So when it comes to the buildup, it means that Guam has a seat at the table.
Yeah.
It means that Guam knows what's going on. When I give career day presentations for students, I always talk about how being an elected official means that you need to be a communicator to your constituency. You need to let them know what's happening, what's the work that you're doing, and how you're accomplishing what you're doing and what they elected you to do. So, not to liken myself to you as a news reporter, but I do feel that I have a responsibility to report back to the people of Guam every step of the way. Whatever meeting that is to bring Guam to the table, whatever that is, every ask that I'm going after to ensure that Guam has the hardened infrastructure, not just inside the base, to ensure that we have, a forward presence to secure the island and the nation, but also thinking about our people who are living the same lives as the people inside the base. So making sure that infrastructure is equal and bringing parity to the people of Guam. I think that's one of the most important things that we can do. I think we can also really focus on that workforce development aspect, because as the growth is going on outside, the population is not only going to increase inside the base, right? It's going to be outside the base, and we need to continue that workforce development. So I've done that over the past several terms in the legislature, increasing the manpower development fund to the Guam Community College for training and for boot camps, all of these different things for apprenticeships. And we've done it to support different industries around the island through the apprenticeship program. We just passed a bill a couple of months ago to secure that funding and to secure that credit for all of these businesses who are building up the workforce by providing on-the-job training. So I think that is another focus, that if we can get our local workforce trained up, skilled up to be able to provide this service, and if that's not meeting the needs, to bring in more workforce here to help not just inside the base but outside the base, something absolutely vital to the growth of our entire island.
And the growing population too only shows the demand for more sustainable living, and that is among your list as well for your platform. Talk to us about that if you can.
Yes, so in the legislature, a lot of my focus, especially early on, was thinking about the sustainability of our island and what that meant for future generations. So I know that as younger people, we feel like, okay, we want to make sure that this island and this world is here for generations to come. And that's something that I think very heavily about because I know that I want to leave Guam and the world a better place than I received it. And so we were so blessed to pass the renewable energy legislation to ensure that Guam has 100% renewable energy by 2045. And I think one of the things that I can do as delegate is to ensure that we are following those benchmarks. We're bringing in federal resources to help us achieve those goals. And I'm really excited to hear that GPA is on track to do that, but it doesn't mean that, the work stops. We have to watch it every step of the way. We have to follow it up. We have to go along with the process because the leaders will change out over time. And so it's incumbent upon us to do what we can. And so as a leader, if I'm fortunate enough to be the delegate, I will continue to fight for those federal resources to make that mandate a reality.
Nice. So now is your opportunity to speak to the voters. You can look into your camera right over here and just go ahead and address them.
Okay. Well, Guam, we are experiencing unprecedented growth today. And largely it is fueled by the U.S. military buildup and our relationship with them experiencing everything on Guam, our growing pains. And I think that what we need to focus on is the people of Guam. Something that I think about often is a sentiment shared in a briefing by our Adjutant General of the National Guard, our former Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Mike Cruz, who talks about what he shares with military officials, men and women, the top brass in Washington, and that is what is at stake for the people of Guam in the weeks, months, decades ahead. And that is in addition to fortifying the island, to building us up and preserving Guam as a military base, we also need to preserve our culture, our traditions, our special uniqueness that makes us who we are. Because we are people of Guam, rooted here, and rooted here knowing that we will be here for generations to come. My campaign, my work as a senator, as your senator over the last 6 years, has always kept that in mind, that I am working for my generation and future generations to come to leave Guam better than we inherited it, to leave Guam as a special and unique place that puts the people of Guam and the hearts of the people of Guam at the forefront. And I thank you so much for the honor of your confidence, your support of me over the last 6 years to be your advocate in the legislature. And I once again ask for your support and your confidence in this new role to be your congressional delegate. Thank you very much, Guam. Siduos Masi. If you are not registered to vote, please register. It's so easy. You can do it online at the Guam Election Commission's website. You can do it in office. There are so many ways to do it, but please register to vote. And on August 3rd, I humbly ask for your vote for Guam's delegate to Congress. Siduos Masi.
Siduos Masi, Senator Amanda Shelton, again, candidate for Guam delegate under the Democratic ticket. We'll see you on the ballot on August 3rd, and good luck to you and the rest of the candidates. This won't be the last we'll be hearing from her as well ahead of the primaries. So again, all the best, and thank you for the time.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us for the interview. Find out what happens next on the campaign trail when the interview returns later. For now, Nick Delgado, stay safe, everyone.